The war in Ukraine has entered a perilous new phase after Russia launched its most intense aerial bombardment since the invasion began. The overnight strikes killed 4 civilians, including a mother and her baby, and for the first time damaged Ukraine's main government building in Kyiv. According to officials in Kyiv, the assault involved more than 810 drones and 13 missiles, an unprecedented wave of firepower that overwhelmed air defenses and underscored Moscow's determination to keep pressing the war. The attacks have intensified calls across the West for stronger action against Russia and thrust U.S. President Donald Trump back into the spotlight. Speaking to reporters after the bombardment, Trump said he was not happy with the whole situation and suggested that Washington might soon move into what he called a second phase of punishing Moscow. "Yeah, I am," Trump replied when asked if he was prepared to escalate sanctions, though he declined to provide specifics. For Moscow, the warnings were nothing new. Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov dismissed the threats, insisting that no sanctions will ever be able to force Russia to change the consistent position that our president has repeatedly spoken about. Russian state media echoed that sentiment, portraying Western measures as ineffective and harmful mainly to Europe. A senior Russian lawmaker, Leonid Slutsky, head of the Duma's Foreign Affairs Committee, went further, accusing Washington of waging economic terrorism. He argued that Moscow's partnerships with China, India, and countries in the global south would offset any additional sanctions. In Washington, however, the mood is shifting. U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent told NBC that the administration was prepared to escalate its economic offensive, provided Europe steps up. "We are in a race now between how long the Ukrainian military can hold up versus how long the Russian economy can hold up," Bessent explained. He laid out a stark choice for Europe: either join the U.S. in enforcing secondary sanctions on countries that continue to buy Russian oil, or risk prolonging the war indefinitely. If EU nations increase sanctions and tariffs on Russia's partners, the Russian economy will be in total collapse. That will bring President Putin to the table, Bessent said. European leaders, according to diplomats, remain divided. While Poland and the Baltic states are pressing for maximum pressure, Germany and Italy are more hesitant, wary of energy shortages and economic backlash. French President Emmanuel Macron, who is expected in Washington this week, told reporters in Paris that Europe must strike a balance between firmness and stability. He stressed that sanctions alone could not deliver peace without a credible diplomatic path. Meanwhile, German Foreign Minister Annalena Baerbock said Berlin was open to discussions on tighter energy sanctions, but emphasized that the EU's internal unity was paramount. "We cannot allow cracks in our alliance to become opportunities for Putin," she said. In Kyiv, President Volodymyr Zelensky used the moment to redouble his appeals for tougher measures. Speaking to ABC News, he praised Trump's tariff strategy as the right idea and urged Europe to fully stop buying Russian energy. "We have to stop any kind of deals with Russia. Only then will they be forced to stop this war," Zelensky said. Ukrainian officials also highlighted the human cost of Sunday's strikes. Andriy Yermak, head of the presidential office, described the bombing as terror against civilians, plain and simple. He urged NATO countries to accelerate delivery of air defense systems, saying that sanctions must be paired with weapons, otherwise our people will keep paying the price. Experts warn that while tougher sanctions could destabilize Russia's economy, they may not immediately change the Kremlin's calculus. Dr. Fiona Hill, a Russia specialist at the Brookings Institution, noted that Putin has consistently shown he is willing to absorb enormous economic pain if it means achieving his strategic objectives. Sanctions are necessary, but not sufficient. They need to be coupled with military pressure and credible diplomatic isolation. Energy economist Daniel Yergin cautioned that cutting off Russian oil exports entirely would have global consequences. If the US and EU push for full secondary sanctions, we're talking about disrupting 1 million barrels a day going to India and another 2 million to China. That would send shockwaves through global markets, he said, adding that OPEC+'s decision to raise production might blunt but not erase the impact. Security analyst Michael Clark, formerly of the Royal United Services Institute, said the real question was political will. The Russians are betting that Western unity will crack before their economy does. Trump's threat is significant, but unless it's backed by a coordinated transatlantic front, Moscow will continue to adapt. Since the full-scale invasion in March 2022, Russia has earned nearly $1 trillion in oil and gas revenues, according to the Center for Research on Energy and Clean Air. Much of that has come from China and India, even as the EU has pledged to phase out Russian energy imports entirely by 2027. Moscow is also actively deepening ties with Beijing. Just last week, Russian officials met with Chinese counterparts to discuss boosting gas supplies, while simultaneously working through OPEC+ to stabilize its oil revenues. For Ukraine, the calculus is grim. As winter approaches, Kyiv faces not only more missile and drone strikes, but also uncertainty over whether its allies will take the economic risks necessary to squeeze Moscow harder. "Every delay in sanctions costs Ukrainian lives," argued Olga Tokaryuk, a Kyiv-based journalist and researcher. "The question is whether Western leaders are prepared to pay the price of ending this war, or whether they will once again let Putin call their bluff." For now, the world waits as Trump prepares to meet European leaders in Washington. His next move could determine not only the trajectory of the war, but also the credibility of Western resolve in confronting Russia's challenge to the international order.